And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with the Game Boy Geek.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. A few years ago, Asmodee came out with a game called Dice Town. Now today we're going to be looking at the sequel of that. It's not an expansion, this is a standalone game called Desperados of Dice Town. It's for 2 to 4 players, takes only 25 minutes to play, it's about half the amount of time of Dice Town itself, and ages 8 and up. Now, in this game, you are basically a boss of a gang, and essentially you're trying to break them out of prison, and once you get them out of prison, you're going to be looting other players and trying to win that way. It's a, got to press your luck elements, got some dice rolling a la King of Tokyo. Let's take a look, I'll show you how it's played, and I'll see you on the other side. At the beginning, everyone gets to select which gang they're going to be the boss of. We have the Olsons, the Mavericks, the Los Libertadores, and the Red Damnation. So each one of those gangs, I have lined up all 5 of their characters in a row. So we have 4 different gangs, 5 different characters, just to show you all the characters in the game. And each one of them have the same types of symbols here. We see the double guns, we see the single gun, the knife. This essentially is the boss, this is the lady, this is the bad, this is the ugly, and this is the brains. Everyone has each one of those characters in their gangs. And I'm just going to show off some of the cool artwork and the differences between those. You can see the difference of the different types of characters, the colors and such, depending between the 2 different gangs here. And you can see the differences between these 2 gangs here. Again, they all have the same sort of numbers that you'll see in the symbols, but they all kind of look differently. And on the back, they have their own name. So once someone has selected their gang, they also get $50. And I'm really happy to see that the dollars is not paper money. They're actually pretty decently thick cardboard poker chips, which works a lot better than money. So what are you trying to do in the game? You're going to be rolling dice over the course of the game. You're going to get re-rolls similar to King of Tokyo. And what you're trying to do is essentially there's 2 victory conditions. You're either going to be able to free all your people out of prison, and if when you free all your people out of prison, you were the one with the most money at the time, you automatically win. If you freed all your people out of prison, but you don't have all the most money, you can try to gain the most money while all your guys are out, because whoever has the most money when everyone's freed wins. The other way to win is essentially player elimination by making everybody else run out of money, because as soon as you run out of money in this game, you're out. So as you can see the numbers on the top, between the boss and the lady and the bad, it starts with a 6 at the top, then a 5, then a 4, then a 3, and then a 2. That essentially shows you how many times an action is going to have to be taken by this person, 4 of them, before they are freed. At the beginning of the game, everybody gets the 4 dice that are in the game, and they get to basically roll them once for a somewhat of a random setup. And essentially what happens is, in this case, the ugly and the lady and the boss are each going to get 1 sort of spin action here. So since we have 2 for this, he's going to go from 3 to 2 to 1, because he got to spin twice because he had 2 die there. The boss is going to spin 1, and the lady's going to spin 1. Now in this first random drawing at the beginning of the game here, you can't have more than 2 of any solution, and you can't have any of the action selection. But that sort of randomly sets it up for everybody. Now let's talk about a normal turn. It does really revolve around these 4 dice. Essentially on your turn, you're going to roll the die, all 4 of them. You can keep as many as you want, and you get up to 2 re-rolls. So each of these, the dice, there's 5 of them. Now remember, you have 5 gang characters. So the dice has 1 of each of those 5 characters, and then an action symbol. So what you can do with this action symbol is, again, as we showed before, if I made up an action symbol with the brains, at the end of my turn, if I resolved, I would be able to spin this brains person 1 because I had 1 action there. If at the end of my 3 rolls, I had this, well, I could either take both of these actions and put them with the brains, and then I would have been able to spin this guy twice, which would have been once, and I actually would have been able to free him out of prison. Or I could have gone 1 and 1. So I could have spun the brains 1, and I could have spun the power by 1. So if he was at 3, I would have been able to spin him 1. Because it was 1 action and 1 action. And essentially that's what you're doing on your turns. You're taking the dice, and you're trying to figure out which ones to re-roll there. And you're trying to get actions to spin these guys enough times to free them up. So say that after my third roll, I've got 3 actions in the ugly. And I got the ugly symbol, the fist here, and this guy's at 2. So there's 3 actions. I would go 1, free for my second action, and he'd have 1 left. Now, because he still has 1 action left, he's got 1 action here for 3. So anybody else that has not yet freed his person with the fist icon, which is the ugly, they would have to pay 3 coins to the middle of the table. They never get paid to any person. They always go to the middle of the table. So for example, if somebody else had this guy and he was not freed, he'd have to pay 3. But if that person already had this guy freed, he wouldn't have to pay it because it's the same type of person. And that's for every type of character. Whenever someone's freed and they do damage or they make them pay, it's only if that person is not yet freed from that player. Now, interestingly enough, so this guy has, this guy starts with 3, and once he's freed, he makes people pay 3, 6, and 9, depending whether he has 1, 2, or 3. The boss, for example, has twice as many turns to get freed because he's in a maximum security prison because he's the boss. But when he's done, he can do about double amount of damage. So it scales pretty well that way there. And of course, on a future turn, if I had rolled this again right here, 3 in this, now that he's already freed, that's when I'd make them pay 9, anyone who didn't have that person freed. Now it's interesting to note that between 2 different factions, so basically I have the knife person from 2 different gangs, just to show you that they're exactly the same in numbers, and even if you free them up, they're exactly the same between all the 4 different gangs. The only exception to that is everyone's brains character has different special ability. Now again, this is the one that always only takes 2. He's the first one out because he's the smartest, and then he has some special abilities, so let's take a closer look. For example, Willie from the Red Damnation, if once he's freed, you basically make all your other opponents pay $1, $2, or $10, depending on how many action die you're able to put to him. The Mavericks, Wilson, this guy lets you draw these special Wild West cards. I'm going to get to these cards in just a moment, but essentially 1, 2, or 3 actions lets you draw 1, 2, or 3 and keep those Wild West cards, and I'll show you what those do later. We have Pedro here, who basically would gain $2, $5, or $9. He gets to take them from the middle, where everyone's putting all their money, assuming that there's money there that he can take. And then the last guy, if he gets 1 or 2, he gets to take any one of his guys that are in prison and spin them by 1. But if he gets all 3 actions on this, he gets to free automatically any prisoner. And these cards, these guys actually each have a special card that shows you what their ability does, and that's given out to each of those. So let's talk about those Wild West cards. If you roll a 3 of a kind, and they could be this, or they also could be the action die, the little action bursts. So it could be either one of those. You get 3 of a kind, and you could pull up, it shows here, 3 of these cards and pick 1 and discard the other 2. If you get 4 of a kind, you can pick up 4 of these cards and keep 2 of them. The last thing you can do is if you roll any all 4 different types of things there. So we have the 4 different types. You cannot roll one of these actions. It's the 4 different types of gang members, gang signs there. If you draw all 4 of those, you get to pick 1 of these up. So these cards essentially let you break the rules of the game. You cannot use them on the turn you get them, but on your turn after that, you can use as many of them as you want. So we have the Revolver King. He's really powerful. He allows you to advance 3 of your Desperados by 1, which is very powerful. We have the Colt, where each action phase can be used with any of your Desperados, regardless of the other symbols that you've rolled, which is cool. The Cheater, you could change the face of 1 die to the character symbol of your choice. You have the Bullier, which the player must re-roll 1 die of your choice. So essentially you play this on an opponent, and you can make them re-roll any die that you want. Never ever. So here, if someone makes you lose money because they have broken out of prison and they've been able to activate that guy again, you can play this card and you don't have to pay any money. The Winchester, it counts essentially as an extra action face. The Mayor can cancel an effect of any opponent's cards. The Lightweight, the opponent plays with 2 dice instead of 4. So those are some of the cards that are in that deck. And you're playing until someone has gotten out all of their gang members from prison, and if they've done that, if they have the most money at that point in time, they win. If they don't have the most money, they can continue to play, and if at any point they have the most money when all their prisoners are out, they win. Otherwise, you can still win with having many of your people in prison. Sometimes I've seen even this happen, and essentially everybody else runs out of money and you still have money. Player elimination, as soon as you run out of money, you're out. So you can eliminate them and still win without having all your Desperados out of prison. All right, well, this is Desperados of Dice Town. So it's designed by Bruno Cathala and Ludovic Malblanc. And if you've watched my videos, you know that's like my favorite tag team duo designers ever. 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna love the game. This is a really good game. In fact, I'm not sure if I like it better than Dice Town, but it's probably gonna hit the table more than Dice Town because it's so quick and easy. It's more in that filler category where Dice Town takes 45 to 60 minutes, to play, where this is like very short, very, but it's captivating. So it is a little bit more of a limited player count, 2 to 4, and I actually like the game better with 2 or 3 than 4. 4 is fine. I won't turn down a game with 4, but it does seem to just barely start to get a little bit of downtime as people are rolling up to 3 times and getting around the table. And even though you're somewhat invested on their turn because they may be making you pay money or you might want to play some cards on them, so it's not completely downtime, but it does start to crawl a little bit to get back to your turn. I prefer the 2 or 3 player game. It actually worked great with 2. It's nothing like King of Tokyo, with the theme or anything like that, but it does feel a little King of Tokyo-ish with that mechanism of rolling the dice up to 3 times. Instead of getting energy and buying cards, you're getting cards by getting 3 of a kind. So there's a lot of similarities to King of Tokyo with 2 ways to win: either knock everybody out, kind of like King of Tokyo, or get out of prison and have the most money, kind of like having the most points. So there's a lot of similarities to King of Tokyo here, but it probably plays even a little bit faster with a little bit more limited player count. And the one complaint I've always had with King of Tokyo is it's terrible with 2 players. Even with the variants that are out there, they're okay, but it's still not one I'm going to pull off the first thing when I have 2 players. This game's actually great with 2 players. In fact, it's very quick, it's back and forth, and it probably only takes 15 to 20 minutes with 2 players. Probably more like 15. With 4 players, it goes up to 25 minutes. So anyway, if you're looking for a quick filler that has that old Wild West theme, that plays and feels like King of Tokyo, but it's a completely different theme, got some nice poker chips instead of paper money, quick, fun little light game, knock each other out, it's fun. You want to check out Desperados of Dice Town.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.